there's another interesting debate that got raked up today by Digvijaya Singh, who as usual started a fresh controversy, basically saying, basically having veiled criticism for the judiciary today when he said the Supreme Court's description of the CBI as a parrot and the Central Administrative Tribunal's description of the IB as a chicken was belittling the country's institutions. His comment was immediately slammed by the BJP.
Well, I put a question mark. By calling CBI a parrot in cage, then a cat bench in Bangalore calls IB a chicken. Now, I have put a question to the people in general. Are we not belittling our institutions? That's it. I want you to respond.
Well, nothing better can be expected from Mr. Digvijaya Singh. I think it is important for him to look inwards for himself, his party, his leader and the Prime Minister. If the moral of the CBI has been downgraded, it is only because of the rank abuse of the CBI by his government. Instead of blaming the highest judiciary, it is important for Digvijaya Singh to learn and understand as to why there are series of scam one after another in his government. And can we know there will be no scam again in the coming months?
Well, we have Mr. R.K. Raghavan, the former director of the CBI, also joining us on this part of the show from Chennai. Mr. Raghavan, what do you think of Digvijaya Singh's comments? Do you think he had a point that when institutions like the Supreme Court or the Central Administrative Tribunal use, these words like tota and chicken for the IB and the CBI, that it belittles these institutions? Or is that a supreme irony coming from a party that many would say has belittled institutions itself, whether it's the CBI or the CAG?
Thank you. I don't agree with Mr. Digvijaya Singh as far as his comments on the CBI are concerned. I thought the Supreme Court did a brilliant job of describing the CBI as a caged parrot. But the CAT, the Central Administrative Tribunal's remarks on IB are most unfortunate. It revealed a certain lack of balance. I think that was definitely belittling a hallowed organization like the IB. Let me tell you that I have some authority to speak on the IB. I spent more than 15 years in the IB, and as director of CBI, I had interacted with the IB very closely. And even since retirement, I have been watching the IB perform. And I think that was an unfortunate remark by the CAT. The CAT had no authority, had no business to comment on the IB because the facts before it were related to an officer who had a grievance with the IB because the IB sent her back to the state. The facts of the case, I'm not aware of all the facts, but then you must remember that the IB and the Home Ministry have the authority to send back an officer to the state if the officer does not measure up to certain standards of performance. My understanding is that that is what has happened, and the CAT should have confined itself to the legality or the regularity of the IB's action in having sent back this officer back to the state. But as far as the CBI is concerned, I think the Supreme Court is simply brilliant in describing the CBI as a caged parrot because these too many constraints have been imposed on the CBI, and successive governments, I'm not going to name anybody because my stand has always been no government has been a saint as far as the CBI is concerned. All governments have successively interfered with the CBI and then tried to subvert the course of justice. So I only partially agree with with Mr. Digvijaya Singh, and I really take exception to the CAT's remarks on because the IB is a hallowed organization. It's above politics. It does its professional job, and it is crucial to the internal security.
Let me take that to Sanjay of the Congress Party. Sanjay, was this remark just a little too much by Mr. Digvijaya Singh at this time when, as the opposition says, it appears that it is the Congress that has belittled institutions like the CBI. In the past, you have not hesitated to attack institutions like the CAG. In fact, political motives have been attributed to the CAG for his 2G report.
Nidhi, Mr. Digvijaya Singh is a very senior and experienced political leader. He's got a vast wealth of experience behind him. the point he was articulating, I think, had more to do with the fact of judicial activism. And I think, today, I mean, at this point of time, you heard Mr. Raghavan say it as well. Even I'm commenting here not as a supporter of the Congress party or a voice of the party, but more from the very independent as a member of civil society. That end of day, even I remember Chief Justice Kapadia mentioning that at some point judicial activism can conflict with the very rule of law. So, this is, as a party, obviously, democratic institutions have to be upheld. Everyone respects the Supreme Court. But there is no denying, and I'll give you one example, and Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad was very caustic on his response on Mr. Digvijay Singh's statement. But the truth is, disruption of parliament is actually, in my opinion, is going to create a judicial overreach. That's the reason why at some point the PILs have now moved down to a stage where Supreme Court is commenting on issues that the executive or the legislature should look at. And I'll give you a classic example of that. Do we need the Supreme Court of India to tell the Bharatiya Janata Party that the CAG report is not the final draft of a report? You had recently a Vedanta can deal where the Supreme Court mentioned that the CAG report cannot be taken when it's submitted. It is not the final. It has to go through Parliament. It has to go through PAC.